I'm Jamie O'Kane, CPA, Small Business Advanced Tax Planning and Compliance Extraordinaire, and this is the Abundant Beans Podcast, the podcast that takes my love for learning what makes people tick while digging into the good, bad, and ugly of small business ownership. We strive to give you the insight that only those in the trenches of being and working with entrepreneurs can provide. All right, today we'd like to welcome to the podcast Kristy Barber. Again. Yay! This is Kristy's second time on the podcast. We will link her first episode in the description box. Cool. Awesome. So Kristy is known for getting things done. Her focus is implementation of solutions and processes to drive profitability. Her company, the fitness accounting firm, was started to help fitness business owners keep their business in shape and grow to the next level. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Did you like my handcrafted bio
Totally
for
did.
you?
Since we all know writing is very difficult for me sometimes.
I cobbled together what you sent me and your LinkedIn profile, and I was like, I got this. I know Kristy. We can handle it. So, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, gosh. I would say disorganized people.
Oh.
You understand.
I feel you.
Here's
sister.
the shoebox. Have fun.
Oh, no.
No,
don't bring me your shoebox.
I don't like
I
that.
will hand it back to you.
Or even the forensic part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a number in here that doesn't make sense. Where did that come from? And then trying to go back and find that. I've done that a few times. Detective work.
It's fun.
It's
but
fun.
annoying at the same time, right?
Yeah. You get to
What
figure
is this
out
number?
the story.
Why is it there? Hair everywhere. So your new focus is on fitness businesses. Why this new niche?
So new niche. Well, I would say you kind of inspired me to niche down.
Did I do that?
You did with your veterinarians.
Yes.
Yes.
We love our veterinarians.
So it kind of made me think, what is something that I'm really passionate about
Mm-hmm.
and something I know?
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of casting my net so wide, let's start narrowing it down so then I can focus on really helping an industry that I'm passionate about and love. So fitness, I mean, it's my entire life.
Fitness is in my top 5 too.
Yeah.
Like when I was putting together all the, the things I love, things I'm passionate about, like fitness was on the top of that list. So I'm so happy you did
it. I'll take over.
Yeah, you got it.
You can do the taxes for all of them. Be great.
Deal.
So then you can feel like you're part of the fitness
plan.
industry too.
Yeah, I mean, just like with any other businesses, most people who start a business they're technicians, right? And what they do, and most, personal trainers and business owners, they're technicians in how to do fitness. They're not fitness technicians, or they're not accounting technicians or finance technicians. So what are some of the key things most fitness business owners are missing when it comes to finance and accounting?
So some of the things that I've seen pop up is understanding equipment expenses and what do you really need as opposed to what you may need to rent per se for a while, instead of going in just saying, I'm going to buy the top level of every equipment out there. Maybe there's some, other ways. Looking at that, other ones are having more square footage than what they need, and so running a metric on that, or what's your revenue per square foot? And if it's too low of a number, why is that? Or is it a type of space that you can have other people use it during the hours that you're not using it? Can you some people are starting to sell like in a front-end boutique, like here's fitness apparel or whatnot. What type of space can you utilize off of that to then start bringing extra income in? So those are kind of the two things that I've seen.
So they're missing an understanding of equipment purchases, because it's real easy to probably go buy
the best out there.
Yeah, like how many Olympic bars do you really need?
Right.
Because I've seen gyms with like 20 Olympic bars and they really only use 5.
Yep.
Very interesting. So utilization. And then I didn't know there was a rent option.
There is.
That's awesome.
So I have a client that does that. Well, lease, I guess, and you can lease to own, kind of like a car, or you can just, once the lease is done, then you can return that equipment and get a new one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key strategies you help these businesses implement?
So some of the key ones I'm working on right now is like we've talked about before, metrics, having
important.
some key ones in place, but not putting too many in place where they start dictating how you should run your company, because it's a good or bad thing. You can have so many metrics in place that you're not running your business per se. You're letting these metrics say, oh, well, it says this, so I'm just going to navigate this way, instead of finding maybe 3 to 4 key ones that will direct you.
That's awesome. So I actually have a question about too many metrics. I do find, and you can tell me if this is what you also find, is when you're tracking too many metrics, they tend to tell you different things. And so you're not sure what the actual answer is.
Yep. Or you're manipulating them to say what you want them to say. That happens too.
Right?
You're like, oh, this number, that means that. It's okay. And really it doesn't. But yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So tell me some of your favorite metrics.
Favorite metrics, I always like revenue per member. So you can kind of see what they're generating. You can also look at what current members are further generating. So are they coming back for repeat sales, or are they just buying a membership? Kind of track that. I like to see I like the revenue per square footage, because that's a good key indicator of what you're doing. Kind of looking at sales. So breaking that down, I know, depending on what kind of gym it is. So you can say, here's just my members per sales. This is, personal training, have all of those. And then you can combine them as a picture to see what your trends are per
And then having goals around all of that, right? So if you sell, monthly packages, or you have a number that you want to hit every month or whatever, tracking those and making sure that whatever you're doing marketing wise is actually bringing those. Bringing it in, because you're going to have people leaving, you're going to have people adding. So you have to make sure that your arbitrage matches. Makes sense.
And look at what that fallout rate is. Is there a reason why more people fall off during certain times of the year? And I always recommend doing a TTM, so 12-month look at your financials. So if you're looking from August to August, don't do fiscal year, because then you can start seeing trends.
What is TTM?
12 month. Trailing 12 month.
There you go. Trailing 12 month. I was like, I got
trailing 12 month. Yeah.
Yeah. So we always want to look at the past 12 months. And that's why we always do comparative, like month to months or year to dates to dates.
Right.
Because if you're trying to, you have to always compare apples to apples. And if you're because that's how we track growth. True. And that's how we track expenses. That's how we track all these things. So if we're doing that trailing 12 month, then we can see the trends. I love that.
And you can always use it as a benchmark too.
Yeah.
And comparative to others out there. Some websites, I think Zen Planner has benchmarks that you can download to start comparing to.
Specific benchmarks.
And then start matching and seeing where you want to go with that, depending on size.
I love that. And in Colorado, we have a lot of fitness
everywhere,
every
corner.
So when you're looking at industry benchmarks, you want to make sure that they are
they're comparative
and they're geographically good, because otherwise you might be comparing yourself to like nationally, which we know that
it's not, or even certain areas.
Yeah.
Like say San Diego may be totally different than here.
Right. So Colorado is one of the fittest, or Denver is one of the fittest states. Like we're the fittest state, but like I'm sure there's parts of Colorado that are less fit. So we want to make sure that we're doing apples to apples on our industry benchmarks.
And that even helps then when you take those industry benchmarks and make them down to a KPI, make sure that you're consistent too, because you could have that measure and you're like, oh, my sales were this, but I noticed a club in Colorado Springs was this. They could be too different just because of the areas. Even.
Yeah. The demographics could be totally different also.
Yeah.
So how do you know you are tracking too many metrics?
I would say you're tracking too many metrics when all you do is look at metrics all day long to make a decision, that you don't use that intuitive gut feeling based off maybe 4 metrics that you have in place. Because I think anything outside of 4, you can't make a decision. They always say, what is it, after 3 choices, your brain just can't really make a decision. It has to be narrowed down. So I kind of use the same philosophy with metrics. If you have more than that, you're not going to pay attention because it's overwhelming.
I think an important thing to say here about metrics is your cash balance on any given day is not a metric.
It is not a metric.
That's not
nor does what you're, that's something totally different. And it could be once a company gets bigger, you have metrics for each department. So it could be sales has 3 key metrics, marketing does, finance does. But when you're first starting out, it might be important, I think, to pick one from each of those departments until they actually become their own.
That's a good idea. Also, one of the benefits of having metrics is when you do bring people on is to tell them what their focus is or to help them understand what their focus is. And then also you can compensate them on those metrics because you figure out what your metrics are.
Yep.
Right? If I need 5 new clients a month and I go hire a salesperson or go hire somebody to do marketing, I can tell them this is what needs to happen. Right? And then you know whether they're doing a good job at that or not.
Exactly. And it's they're parameters for them as well to say, hey, you get to this point, here's your incentive. You get to this one, here's the next incentive. And it breaks it down. And it helps you know what kind of sales may be coming through. So then you can make sure the correct staffing is in place too. So let's say it's the first of the year because everybody gets a gym membership at the beginning of the year. Whether they use it past the first week of the year, that's a different story. Yeah. But I think there's better marketing in place to get people to stay on and not drop off after, what did they say? New Year's resolutions last for about...
I think it's till...
first part of February.
I think everything I've read is St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
The goal is to get people to last through St. Patrick's Day. And that's when everything just
kind of falls off.
It's that or Valentine's Day. It's one of those.
It's one of the two.
One of those 2 holidays.
Yeah, because I've heard different ones. Some are like it's 2 weeks. Others it's 2 months. It just depends. But I think if a gym can put the proper marketing behind that to help make those people not fall off, to keep them involved and not wanting to give up so easily.
Yeah, and then so that speaks to what programs are working to keep people on. What do people really want in their fitness? How are we,
how are you hearing your clients?
Yeah. What are their goals?
Yep.
Are we working with people that have the same goals? Because that makes it easier to streamline processes and systems. Somebody's goal might be to lose weight. How do we
help them?
That?
Yeah. As opposed to somebody that wants to do a Spartan race and prep for that. How do you help them?
Right. If people want to just get stronger, which is just my thing. I just want to get stronger.
Yeah.
Mentally and physically. If the weight loss happens, it does. But, it depends on people's goals and how you train them. So if you're doing just Spartans, if you're training for just Spartans, that looks totally different than the person who wants to lose weight.
Yep.
That might be helpful because you have to pull yourself over things, but
I've never done. You've done one.
I did it. I did a Spartan a year ago in August.
I've only done train races.
Yeah, never again. Never again. So what systems are important for a service business to implement accounting wise?
So I think for sure have a QuickBooks or Xero. Even something, I've seen some people starting to move to a small version of NetSuite even and these are more so gyms that might be scaling quickly, that they're going to be franchised out or whatever. So now they're on a larger system that can easily be connected with multiple users. So that's always, you got to have accounting software. Excel spreadsheets. No, they don't give you a real picture of what's going on. That's important, a POS system. So you can ring through all your purchases and if possible, have that link to your whatever finance system you're using. And I know QuickBooks has their own point of sale system, and various other softwares do too, if not a plugin or an API is there.
So a tech stack that works together.
Yep.
Super important.
Very important.
If you're paying people by time, making sure that your time system works properly.
Yes.
A system to do recurring revenue. You want that every month. At the beginning of every month for that income to come in, because that's how we best run our cash flow, right?
Yep.
So you don't have to run everybody's cards. You
want something that automatic time saver.
So POS system and then some kind of dashboarding system.
Yep, some kind of dashboarding system for the KPIs so you can see those real time. And I would say something to manage inventory. So if a gym sells apparel or nutritional products, you want to make sure that's tracked.
Yeah. I think most gyms are, especially small owned, are pretty tiny retail system.
Yep.
But then we have to do sales tax.
Yes.
So then my next question for you was, what systems are important for retail businesses? So inventory tracking.
Yes.
And then what else do you usually implement for retail businesses, especially large? Kristy works with a lot of the huge manufacturing systems.
Yeah, so it's all the ERP systems. And a lot of those, it's making sure you have the right sales tax software put in, which I recommend Avalara. It's my favorite because it works with most every software out there, and it's affordable, and it grows with you.
And they've got it figured out.
Yep, they have it all figured out for you. And your software can dump in your numbers, and you're good. Yeah,
we find, we only do like one site sales tax. Sales tax has been a huge conversation around e-commerce. It's been a huge conversation with the Wayfair stuff. And until Congress actually does something to help small businesses, it's hard. The sales tax has to really be on point.
Yep.
It could be a huge issue. You could end up with 10 states in your back pocket trying to get more money and an audit.
Yep. And I would say the other biggest thing is payroll. I highly recommend outsourcing that. Don't do it yourself.
Please don't do your own payroll.
It's cheaper in the long run to hire somebody to do it. It's less of a headache. And all you have to do is input the hours that somebody works, and you're done in probably 5-10 minutes max.
Yeah, I refuse to do payroll. And it's exactly the same reason you do. There's too much compliance.
Yeah.
There's too many compliance pieces on even if you have one site in one state, you have 5 to 6 compliance pieces that have to be done correctly. You have to know how often you have to pay in. You have to know how to pay it in. You have to file all the reports. It just makes more sense to use a company that knows what they do.
Yeah, because I have a client that has 27 locations. And, there's different, like Denver has an occupational tax where a different city doesn't have that. So I need to know which employees actually work at which site to then say, okay, they have to have this amount taken out of their check each pay period.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot to know.
It is.
I have a client who just found out that they weren't paying in their Colorado withholding. Quick enough. So they were paying in quarterly when they should be paying in monthly. And they just got a bill for like $2,500 in penalties.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you had a third party, they're going to help you avoid stuff like that.
Funny enough, they were on a third party. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that.
You're like, whoops.
He sent me the notices, and I was like, I think maybe you weren't paying in quick enough, on the rate schedule.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. But that's why we give you to a payroll company, because that's a lot of things to track.
It is. And if it spreads you thin, because you can't be a payroll expert when you're trying to run all these other components of the business. And
nor should you.
No.
That's one of those things that you really just hand over.
Third party. And always a good CPA.
Yes.
Right. Don't use TurboTax.
Good tax person.
Yeah, to help.
Or EAs
are great.
Amazing too.
Yeah, just to be able to plan out for the future. And are you going down the right route? Do you need to start withholding, and like you said, withholding different taxes for your estimated, because your business is growing and you don't want to be hit with a big tax bill at the end of the year.
Entity. Are you about to blow past limits for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, QBI deduction? Like, there's just so many moving components.
Things. Yeah. And if you don't have a good tax person, you're not going to know those things. And a TurboTax is not going to tell you.
No. And your tax person you see once a year that you pay $250 to
will not tell you.
That. So before I ask you my last question, where is the easiest way for people to find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Fitness Accounting Firm, and also website, fitnessaccountingfirm.com.
Awesome. I'm going to link all that stuff in the description box for you.
Yeah.
Yay. So final question. What is the biggest mistake you find in businesses' accounting systems, and what is the remedy?
I think transparency is a huge problem. Because most larger companies, they'll have somebody that's an AR and an AP, and they don't talk to each other. And a lot of times maybe a past due payment will come in and they don't know why it hadn't been paid. And I find that I've seen that a lot in the companies I've worked with this year. Why didn't you pay this? Well, it didn't have this. Or, there's just that miscommunication as well.
And the processes.
Yep. And not knowing why something was purchased. Even though you can match it to an invoice and it's being keyed in, was it actually received and did we actually need it?
That's huge. And for small businesses, I do find that a lot of them, transparency is huge in not understanding their financials. Or they have somebody on the back end doing the bookkeeping and they don't know what's going on or what needs to be happening, which is a problem for growth.
Yep.
And it's a problem for potential fraud. It's a problem. It's just a problem to not have proper books and to be knowing what they look like.
Or flushing personal through business.
Oh, that's a huge problem.
That's a big pet peeve of mine. Don't use the company card as an ATM.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You need to take, if it's an S corp, then you should take an extra draw if there's a lot of these expenses, or pay yourself a better wage, I would say, instead of, because you can't get a clear picture of what your company's doing if everything's being flushed through as a shareholder distribution.
Yeah, that's a lot of cash going out. That's not helpful
need
for
to.
cash flow.
No.
For your business.
Yeah, and then planning.
Yeah. On top of the fact that you might end up in huge legal hot water if somebody sues you and you've been putting a bunch of personal stuff through your business.
It's not good.
Not good. It's not a good plan. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay.
This is fun.
It is fun.
Thank you so much for listening or watching. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you prefer to listen. If you learned something and found some useful information to apply to your business today, please consider giving us a thumbs up and a review. Until next week, be abundant.